Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Today is Sunday, September 18, 2011. I'm speaking with Dr. Dwijen Bhattacharya, professor and teacher here in New York City. It is being conducted in New York City, the interview being conducted. Now, Professor, tell me, what's your base?
Well, I was born in the Sylhet, district of Sylhet in Bangladesh.
What town, village, subdivision?
The name of the village is Jaipur. It's about 20 miles from the Indian border of Kwai.
Kwai? And
yes.
How far it is from Sylhet town?
This is from like 70 miles from Sylhet.
So what was the nearest town?
Nearest town is Habiganj.
Habiganj.
Yeah.
So,
it's a district now. It was a subdivision then. Yes.
So, so how far was it from Habiganj?
Habiganj is like 12-13 miles.
Right. How did you used to go there?
Well, I did not go to the district and sub-district town until I was a 9th grader.
Okay.
8th grader. I had to go there to take it's a national scholarship exam. To take that exam, I went there.
Okay.
Took the train, went there.
From Jaipur.
From Jaipur.
Jaipur.
Yes.
Okay. How was Jaipur? How was the village like? I mean, the atmosphere, your home. How was your home like? How many people in Jaipur?
Jaipur is okay, here is Jaipur. On one side runs the national highway.
Okay.
And on the other the national railroad.
Oh, I see.
Here is Jaipur. Okay. It's a small village, but there are two sections, East and West Jaipur.
Okay.
Jaipur, it was a Hindu village.
Okay.
Predominantly Hindu village. But following 1946, particularly after 1947,
yeah,
most of the Hindus left the village.
Most of them left?
Most of them left the village in the face of all kinds of persecution and atrocities.
Okay.
My father wasn't able to go because he was only 13 years old and his father had died, passed away. And he had responsibility of his sister and old mother, so he had to stay back.
How old was he then?
I think he was 13 years old then.
So by 13 years he became the father of the family.
Yeah, he had to take up the responsibility because my grandfather had died.
Okay.
Okay, so he had to stay there, and we had land property, and we had a farmland. Not huge, but enough to sustain a big family. So he was able to survive there with the family. Come 1947, most of the people left. Some people requested him. In 1971, when I went to India, Tripura, Kwai, they came to see me, receive me. They called me son of Master Moshe, meaning son of teacher.
Your father was a teacher?
Yes,
there?
my father was an elementary school teacher. Later he became an elementary school teacher after graduating from the 8th grade.
Oh, okay.
Those days you could become, after 8th grade, they used to call it, I think, normal.
Okay.
And then you could go for guru training to Silchar, India, which is part of India now. Come back, teach elementary school. That's what he was able to do. People came and told me how they asked my father to leave. And my father had to stay, and he had to suffer enormously at the hand of the militant Muslims of the village and the surrounding. And they told me, that's the first time I heard the stories how my family had to suffer before I was able to understand what was going on around me.
Okay. So how large was your family? How many brothers and sisters?
Well, we are 5 brothers and sisters.
And all of them stayed in that village?
Well, here we go. When I was young, allow me to say, when I was young, at the age of, when I was in 5th grade, my only dream was to go to India. And go to India so that I could bring my family, my parents and my younger brothers and sisters to India, so they could live for one day in their life without the fear of being killed.
Really?
That was my goal.
It was that precarious even in the village?
Yes, because every day you wake up, during the day you lived a fairly normal life, except that they would come and cut down your bamboo trees, they would insult you, those kind of
because
things.
You're a minority?
Minority Hindus.
Really?
Hindus or Buddhists, whatever you are.
Yeah.
And once the nightfall came, you did not know you would survive that night. For example, if a tire burst, for example, a tire of a truck burst, we used to take cover, leave the house, go into the deep forest nearby and stay there all night, being bitten by the mosquitoes, hoping, because you'd conclude that...
And this was what time, what decade? 40s, 50s?
I'm talking about when I was a fifth grader. I was born in 1953.
So it was in the 50s and early
late
60s.
50s and early 60s, yeah.
So it was that precarious. So how was your house like?
Okay. We had the house is, we had let's say, we had like 15 acres of land in adjacent, surrounding our house, and other farmland a little beyond that. Our house, we had two, as we call it, pakka, brick houses, one for the cows, one for us, and one for Thakur, which is God.
The shrine room.
Yes. And we had a pond behind our house, a huge pond, which is like a sound, which was shared by other villagers, like in front of our house, which is like, let's say, 200 years in front of our house. That's the typical structure of a village home. We're very comfortable. We're not rich, but comfortable.
Survive,
But the point was, as a Hindu, you didn't want to live there. And my father could not go because we were there. And he could not sell his property. It was very difficult. Now, every now and then you would wake up in the morning and see that another household has left under the cover of night.
Really?
The term was exchange with a Muslim family came from India and they had left.
Was it really exchange or they just left and somebody moved in?
In some cases they left. We heard that some cases they got some money, others left them. And it typically happened when a girl was raped in the family. I have seen in my village rampant rape, and people, the entire section, neighborhood was wiped out.
Oh, really?
And it happened routinely, and girls would be taken out, let's say 11 o'clock you hear somebody cry, a huge hue and cry in a village house, and then you would hear it again at 5 o'clock when they would find the girl somewhere. So you could tell what was happening, and you dare not go out of your house.
50s and 60s?
Late 50s, early 60s.
So, is there anybody still living in your village?
Some Hindu families who could not make it to India still live there because going to India became increasingly difficult. Particularly after 71, people wanted to believe that the things would change, a secular government would come to power. But they soon discovered that this was like just as good as any other government. And they claim to be secular, but that's not the case, which I will come to later.
People here, Now, so those families where these atrocities was taking place, then they would stay there or they would vanish in
They would vanish, they would disappear. One day in the morning you see that, you hear that family has gone. And I recall as a young boy, I used to insist, my mother used to insist on my father's living for India, but he, for some reason, part patriotism, part he was a teacher.
He had a job there.
Yeah, he had a stable job there. And he wasn't willing to take the risk of uncertainty. But every night, we would pray that we stay alive tonight. Why? Because some people would argue that this happens because you are weak. But no, I have asked myself, and I grew up as a secular young man, and secular person, and I still remain so. Whenever an incident of banditry, dacoity, robbery happened, the targets were Hindu families. Always. Not a poor Muslim family. Never. That was never the case.
Or not a rich Muslim.
No. Not even a poor Muslim. If it is a conflict between the rich and the poor, then it should be the poor Muslims should also be targeted. But that's not the case, though. Always the Hindus. Famous people in my village are slaughtered. I have seen that. They were slaughtered. They were killed. Some of them stayed here. Some of them, those who could, they all left.
Okay. It was that bad. Yeah, I mean, I have heard myself that when there is a tornado, it doesn't discriminate. That means there is a tornado, it doesn't discriminate. I know. But otherwise, you could find out. Now, how many generations your family lived there? You know?
we don't have a genealogy, but my grandfather, what we heard that they even could not tell from where they, and we can tell that by looking at our features. You can tell that we are not immigrants. You know,
from time zero.
Yeah, I'm a little taller than other members of from time zero. I'm a little taller perhaps than other members of my. If you look at other members of my family, we are Dravidian and people of that land.
Native people, indigenous people.
Indigenous people.
Now, was any time your family targeted?
Definitely, most definitely. Okay, there had been times when we were robbed tonight, for example. When I say rob, bandits would come, break open the house by using shovels and stuff. They're breaking a brick house and you are cowering inside the house. Come inside, blindfold you and beat you up. You can see scars on my back. And once they came to take my sister, finally they decided not to take her because she was too young. They thought she was older. So that's the that was kind of a daily
terror?
Daily life. Okay, in 1971, Bangladesh becomes independent.
What happened at that time for you?
Bangladesh, in 1971,
did you stay in your village?
I wanted to take my family. My house was burned down. I started to go to India with my family. On the way, we were blocked by the fanatic Muslims. They said, you cannot flee. Okay, you guys have voted for Awami League. I argued, we voted for Awami League. They got landslide victory. What percentage of Bangladeshis are Hindus? How come you blame us?
Yes.
You guys voted for Awami League, now you blame it on us. They said, don't talk too much. And then all the people who were fleeing, they decided to come back because we heard that a few miles ahead of us, in the jungle, you had to cross a big forest. They were slaughtering Hindus. So they had to come back. Coming back, we found out young people like me were being slaughtered en masse. So my family insisted on my going to India to survive and try to rescue them, which wasn't possible. I went, joined the freedom fight, but then I got sick and I came back and I decided to rescue them.
You came back to your village?
I know, I came back to Agartala.
Oh, so
on leave from this.
But your family went to finally.
No, they could not. No,
so they stayed in the village.
They had to stay in the village, and they were given shelter by one Muslim family. And to this day, my mother, who is 83 years old, to this day, that lady remains her favorite person. She was a very simple Muslim woman. She would take my mother whenever the army would come, and she would take my mother, take that. The Hindu conch shell bracelet out.
Wedding bracelet.
Yes, and wipe the vermilion from here, which is an indicator that she is a married Hindu woman, and hide them among them, and they would escape. And my father would go into the forest and my little brother. That's the way they fortunately survived. My father was taken away.
Throughout 71?
My father was taken away to be killed in a slaughter place. But from a truck coming from the opposite direction, he was blindfolded, and my mother passed out, and everybody, they concluded that he would be killed today. But a truck coming from the opposite direction, one of the collaborators of the Pakistani army called the Rajakar, he saw that. My father was his teacher one day. So he intercepted the truck, stopped it, and rescued him, arguing that this man is not pro-Indian. He's a good man. But even though he was a good man.
He was with the killing.
Oh yeah. Others who had
individual.
Others who had taken with him were killed.
Oh my gosh.
So he survived.
But you were away.
I was away. I got sick then. In India, I got sick.
Okay.
All kinds of sickness. Then in the meantime, I was unable. Then my family relatives intervened. They came from Calcutta. They took me to Calcutta and said, you are not going there. All you can do is work in the Salt Lake refugee camps.
Okay. So
which
you
is
worked
what
there?
I did. Yeah.
Till the end of the war?
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
And then
so you were there. What about in other times? Did you know anybody else being killed in 71?
For example, do I know anybody? I know many people. Look, I was in Chittagong as a student in Chittagong College.
Okay.
Many people in that neighborhood were killed. I saw that myself before leaving Chittagong. Okay, and then when I came to my village, Hobbyganj, many. So I don't want to recall that many people were killed.
I see. So your house was burned down, so they lived with the neighbors.
Yeah, they lived with the neighbors.
And many months.
Sure,
It's a
many months.
protector Muslim
yes,
family.
Yes, if there are, like in any nation, there are some, but those people are very vulnerable too. They were charged, why do you protect the Hindus?
I see.
So, but because my father, he had a unique advantage because he was a teacher.
Yes.
So many people, including the murderers, many of them were
his students.
Once.
Yeah.
Maybe their parents were also students. So that's how my family survived. But that doesn't tell you anything about it. It's a general situation that in general, if you are a Hindu, I have a friend who is a doctor here. He says, if you want to experience what is hell, he's a doctor in New York. His daughter goes to medical school. He says, go live in Bangladesh as a Hindu for a week and come back. So you will have an experience of what is hell.
Now, did your family get any money from the government to repair your home or anything?
Oh, no. Nobody got any money. Even that's look, in 1971, about 115 mosques square demolished by the stray bullets and bombs. They were all repaired by government money, but not a single Hindu temple, not even the Ramna Kali temple, which is in the center of Dhaka.
That was
Dhaka
destroyed.
that was destroyed, including
9th century temple.
Yes, destroyed with I think 37 inmates.
Over 100.
Over 100 inmates and the priests and those are people used to live in the ashram. But the saddest part is the claimant of secularism in Bangladesh, the so-called father of the nation, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman. He ordered his bulldozers to go and level the ground off in Dhaka. And that place is yet to be built.
Yes, he was the one who...
So forget about helping the minorities rebuild. That's the saddest part. That
many assets of many generations were gone.
Everything was gone.
Yeah.
Everything was gone. As I said, I repeat, many people who live there, look at this, the Hindus became minority, I think late 18th or early 19th century after the Muslims took Bengal. However, the biggest donors were the Hindus. All the colleges are named after the Hindus.
Even many mosques were built by Hindus.
Many. They're the biggest donors, but those people were killed in 1971. Not one. R.P. Shah.
Yes.
Kundu.
No.
But so many people, so many of the donors were killed rampantly.
So what about in 64? 64 there was a large-scale killing of Hindus.
In 1964,
Bal killing.
In 1964, I think I was in 6th grade.
And you're safe? You remember?
No, our area, we lived in panic. I remember my father went to Habiganj, district town, for a business. There was a court case and he went to help someone. He often had to go because he was a school teacher. People in the countries, they used to take him, seek his help, and he would go. Now, that night he did not come home. He usually comes home by the 5 o'clock train. And all night, everybody told us that night they were coming to kill us. There was a riot, meaning unilateral riot, unilateral slaughter of the pogrom, killing of the Hindus and Buddhists and Christians. And that night my father did not come home. And what he did was, the train that came, there was a lot of blood in the train. So when he saw blood in the train, he did not board the train. So what he did was, in a nearby high school, there was an open-air play going on. And he went there. He thought that would be the safest place for him that night. And all night, imagine my mother and my younger brothers and sisters, and I was a 6th grader, I believe. And imagine that night spending in the forest without our father. I mean, we were checking on each other if you were alive that night. And
now, yes. Now,
I know someone who directly witnessed that. That gentleman is Haripada Sarkar, who is a scientist for FDA in Washington, Maryland. His brother is an engineer. He lives in Toronto. He told me the mind-boggling story of how they had to walk home on the dead bodies of people, the Hindus, in the Ashuganj fertilizer. Yes. If you want to interview him, he can tell you the details.
I'd love to. Now you went to college in Chittagong, right?
That's correct.
Now life was normal there?
Again. Chittagong, I went to Chittagong, the War of Independence broke out, and there was a lot of killing and slaughter in Chittagong. It was a lot of Hindus lived there.
Yeah.
When I went back, here's an incident. Okay. Now Bangladesh became a secular country. That's what they claimed. I go back to the university dorm, college dorm, Chittagong Government College, it's an old college dorm, and the Hindu hostel was demolished during the war.
Oh.
So I wanted to live in the Muslim dorm. And the principal, Abu Sufyan, he told us, I cannot keep a Hindu here. I said, why not? It's a secular country. And President Abu Said came to Chittagong and I wanted to see him. He said, there is no point. I can let you come to my house, but I can't allow you to sleep with your feet towards Mecca. So if you live in that dorm, you are a Hindu, you might decide to place your feet toward Mecca, and then that would be insulting to Islam. I cannot let you do that, and I wasn't able to live in the dorm. So I had to go find a place near Ramakrishna Mission on Askar Deki Call.
Okay.
So that's the experience after the independence.
But that could happen to a Muslim. Could also sleep like that. So
but imagine, that's the shock you get.
Yes.
After 3 million death and 250,000 women being raped. And according to Kennedy report, you know that those people who had to flee to India, and particularly India, people fled to other countries too. 88% of them were Hindus and other minorities. And in the absence of any data about as to how many people were killed where, I believe the number of Hindus, Buddhists, and Christians killed were higher than 88%. But the government methodically refuses to take count of that.
But in the villages, I have heard during my field work, 90 to 95%.
That's correct. Any village you go and see who were killed. Most of them are Hindus, Buddhists, and Christians.
Now, growing up in college, life was normal.
When you say normal,
that means
normal is a even during the it's a normal. How do you define normal? Normal, you are a Muslim, you are a Hindu, and you are always like at a disadvantage, and huge disadvantage.
That
and
was normal.
Yeah, you don't want people even to know your name, that you carry a Hindu name for safety. No. So what kind of normalcy is that?
No, that is not. I don't.
1972, you come back from the war, and this country is so-called secular now. And all over the country in October 1972, the deities of goddess Durga, the biggest festival of the year, were demolished throughout the country. And the government of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman did nothing. So how do you feel as a Hindu when they are being demolished? And as I talked to you a week ago, the same thing happened in Narayanganj. Again, that secular government is in power, Awami League. It's a coalition government led by the father of the nation's daughter. Is the same story. Ittifaq carried that news.
And there was
so I don't know. Is it normal to see your places of worship being demolished?
No, that's not normal.
That's not normal.
No, that's absolutely abnormal.
Yeah.
Unfortunate. Now, you went to West Bengal, and you have lived there, so probably you can also answer. I don't know. But why do you think West Bengal is a Hindu majority, but minority Muslims have been able to stay? Actually, their number has even gone up percentage-wise than Hindus, in spite of huge influx of Hindu refugees from Bangladesh. Whereas in Bangladesh is a Muslim majority, same Bengali, Hindus are minority, but the minority Hindus couldn't stay. Why so?
That's interesting. I personally lived in India in 1971. Then again, I got a Fulbright scholarship, so I lived in Calcutta again in 1994, 1995 for about a year. Okay. Now, the Hindus, I think, about nearly 40 million people, if you count.
The descendants.
Yes, include their descendants, and Bangladesh, if they did not have to live in the face of atrocities and persecution, our number in Bangladesh is about 25 million now, I believe. Now it would have been plus 40 million, nearly 40 million. So it would have been 65 million people. And they had to leave. And as I talk to you, I know people are living, planning to leave. And what can they do when your deities are destroyed, and that there is such a thing as enemy property, that still confiscate your property, and they have taken 2.7 million acres of land from the minorities, particularly Hindus of Bangladesh.
That was in the
However,
90s.
yeah. Now, why? Because Hindus are tolerant. Hindus are tolerant. In India, the Muslims are thriving. Their population, I think, has risen to 33% from 24% many years ago in West Bengal.
17 to, they said, 28%.
Yeah. And in many places like Assam, their population is, some districts is 60% and stuff. And I haven't seen a single person come and want to come. I've spoken to many Muslims in India. How do you feel here? They said, this is our motherland. Do you want to? They said, this is our motherland. Do you want to? Wouldn't you like to immigrate to Pakistan? It's an Islamic state. He said, are we crazy? Okay. Nobody wanted to migrate because Hindus are tolerant. Things happened in Gujarat and other places, but in general, Hindus are much more tolerant, and India remains a secular country. But that's not the case in Bangladesh. They want you to leave the country. If you leave the country, otherwise they force you, and you know what is happening in Chittagong hill tracts. They use the tools of rape and arson and all kinds of persecution to evict these people from their ancestral land, so that they can grab their property. That's it.
Yeah. Do you know if anybody benefited because of Bengal partition? Any West Bengal, East Bengal, Bangladesh?
Anybody benefited?
Hindus?
Anybody benefited? Okay. The Muslims, there has grown a Muslim middle class in Bangladesh. They're the beneficiaries. I don't know anybody else benefited from that. If I talk to the secular Muslims, they don't believe it was beneficial for the Muslims either, because they believe if we had a combined India, things would have been different. India would be a country like America, where people of all races and religions could live peacefully, like they still do in India, except for sporadic incidents that can happen in any country. That happens in America too. There are racist.
But in India, Muslims have also attacked Hindus, attacking Hindus almost on a regular basis.
Yeah. They're very aggressive, and imagine being minority, they can do that. In Bangladesh, you don't want to be known as a Hindu. You don't want anyone to call you by your Hindu name.
No, is that bad?
It's a
this is a tough one, or not tough one. So can Hindus and Muslims live together, or Muslims and non-Muslims live together with equal rights and peacefully?
Where? In Bangladesh?
Yeah.
Or anywhere else?
Yeah.
Well, I'm giving an answer because you are a researcher and you expect an honest answer from me. No. This is because, allow me to expand on it. This is because somehow starting probably 1905, probably external factors were involved. Somehow the Muslims have come to believe that their religion is the best and they are better. Everybody else is infidel and are doomed to spend eternity in hell. Even when, if you tell a Muslim gentleman that a Hindu, even Mother Teresa died or Gandhi died, they say, Fi nar jahannam khalidina, which means, I know some Arabic, that let in the fire of hell,
let them burn
that
the
person, for eternity. Now, if that is culturally transmitted to someone, then the moment you believe that somebody is inferior to you, the next thing you do is you neglect. And then if you can neglect someone, he is other, and at some point he is expendable. So it's not, your question was, can they live on equal status? The answer is no, because it's a socially transmitted disease, and it is consuming them, and they believe their superiority, and therefore it is impossible. Can you live with the secular Muslims? I have no problem living together with my secular, but they are all atheists or agnostics. So they are a fraction of a people, and even they have to hide from the society, because if they let it be known that they're agnostic, then they would probably, they're also as vulnerable as I am there.
Murtad.
Murtad. And so in general, Okay, in 1940s, the Muslims of India came up with the theory that they're a separate ethnic group based on religion. It's an anthropologist's nightmare. So they proved that it's a separate ethnic group.
Separate race, they call it.
Race, separate race. Hence, they need a separate country. So they do not believe in coexistence. Now, they do live in India. They live in here. But I can bet, given a chance, they would ask for separate land everywhere, including the United States. They would try to impose Sharia in England, in France, in America, in India, if they could. Now, where does it come from? Because they grow up believing their religion is the best, and they are bound for heaven, and everybody else is bound for hell for eternity.
So they have to be transformed into a secular person.
Again, society as a whole, no, because they train their children when they are young. They send their children to Quranic schools where they are brainwashed. Whereas people of other religions, mostly, they don't do it. As a Hindu, I wasn't sent to a Hindu religious school, so they cannot do that because they're brainwashed. And I have met with many educated people. They slide back to that position. If they don't do it when they're young, when they become older, they become religious, and they tend to believe in that. So being a Muslim and being a secular person, it's theoretically possible, but I haven't seen that. I'm 58 years old.
Yeah, okay.
And
okay.
So I have my doubts.
All right. We're almost at the end. Is there anything else that comes to your mind that I didn't ask?
Okay, Professor. The point is, in 1971, Bangladesh became a secular country. And the election campaign prior to 71, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, the father of the nation, he promised that they were seceding from Pakistan and Bangladesh would become a secular state. In 1988, in 1958, Ziaur Rahman declared, put Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, an Islamic verse on the Quran.
Written in Arabic.
In Arabic. And then 1988, General Ershad, he made Islam the state religion. And we wanted to believe that when the secular forces would come to power with majority in parliament, they would change it. Bangladesh should again restore the original constitution of 1972. So we would become equal, at least on papers. But recently, through the 15th Amendment of the Constitution last May, I believe, Sheikh Hasina, the daughter of Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, her parliament with 3/4 majority, she redeclared Islam as the state religion. After that incident, I do not believe the minorities can ever live in Bangladesh with equal status. It is impossible because the moment it is declared Islam, one religion is given status, there are consequences. The fanatic Muslims treat this as a license to persecute the minorities. She refuses to repeal the Enemy Property Act by using which they have grabbed 2.78 million acres of land.
And tens of thousands of homes and ponds and businesses. But that's only in the 1990s though. There were many more in the 80s and 70s.
Sure. But I'm talking about this secular. I'm not even talking. You know, in Chittagong hill treks, Logang massacre. I mean, I can go hours after hours, and I don't think you have enough time for that. So, but the point is, it's so sad and so sad that in this country, these people cannot live in their ancestral land. And even those people, when they flee to India, they don't get refugee status in India because the 2003 Immigration Act of India prohibits granting refugee status to people of Bangladeshi origin. So they live there as stateless people, and there are 15 million people. So this is a bizarre situation. And I don't know where should these people go now.
Okay. All right, it's very heart-wrenching. Thank you very much for your...
You are welcome.
For your experience, for your presentation, for your knowledge and